above mentioned house-to-house inquest. This movement in favor of communal possession runs badly against the current economical theories according to which intensive culture is incompatible with the village community. But the most charitable thing that can be said of these theories is that they have never been submitted to the test of experiment. They belong to the domain of political metaphysics. The facts which we have before us show, on the contrary, that wherever the Russian peasants, owing to a concurrence of favorable circumstances, are less miserable than they are on the average, and wherever they find men of knowledge and initiative among their neighbors, the village community becomes the very means for introducing various improvements in agriculture and village life altogether. Here as elsewhere, mutual aid is a better leader to progress than the war of each against all, as may be seen from the following facts. Under Nicholas I's rule, many crown officials and serf owners used to compel the peasants to introduce the communal culture of small plots of the village lands, in order to refill the communal storehouses after loans of grain had been granted to the poorest commoners. Such cultures, connected in the peasants' minds with the worst reminiscences of serfdom, were abandoned as soon as serfdom was abolished, but now the peasants begin to reintroduce them on their own account. In one district (Ostrogodsk in Kursk), the initiative of one person was sufficient to call them to life in 4/5 of all the villages. The same is met with in several other localities. On a given day the commoners come out, the richer ones with a plough or a cart, and the poorer ones single-handed, and no attempt is made to discriminate one's share in the work. The crop is afterwards used for loans to the poorer commoners, mostly free grants, or for the orphans and widows, or for the village church, or for the school, or for repaying a communal debt. Such communal cultures are known to exist in 159 villages out of 195 in the Ostrogodsk district, in 150 out of 187 in Slavionetsk, in 107 village communities in Alexandrovsk, 93 in Nikolaevsk, 35 in Elizabethgrad. In a German colony, the communal culture is made for repaying a communal debt. All join in the work, although the debt was contracted by 94 householders out of 155. But all sorts of work which enter, so to say, in the routine of village life (repair of roads and bridges, dams, drainage, supply of water for irrigation, cutting of wood, planting of trees, etc.) are made by whole communes, and that land is rented and meadows are mown by whole communes, the work being accomplished by old and young, men and women in the way described by Tolstoy, is only what one may expect from people living under the village community system. List of such works which came under the notice of Zemstvo statisticians will be found in Vivi's Peasant Community, pages 459 to 600. They are of everyday occurrence all over the country, but the village community is also by no means averse to modern agricultural improvements, when it can stand the expense, and when knowledge hitherto kept for the rich only finds its way into the peasant house. It has just been said that perfected ploughs rapidly spread in South Russia, and in many cases the village communities were instrumental in spreading their use. A plough was bought by the community, experimented upon on a portion of the communal land, and the necessary improvements were indicated to the makers, whom the communes often aided in starting the manufacture of cheap ploughs as a village industry. In the district of Moscow, where 1,560 ploughs were lately bought by the peasants during 5 years, the impulse came from those communes which rented lands as a body for the special purpose of improved culture. In the northeast (Viatka), small associations of peasants who travel with their winnowing machines (manufactured as a village industry in one of the iron districts) have spread the use of such machines in the neighboring governments. The very widespread of threshing machines in Samara, Saratov and Kherson is due to the peasant associations, which can afford to buy a costly engine while the individual peasant cannot. And while we read in nearly all economical treatises that the village community was doomed to disappear when the free field system had to be substituted by the rotation of crop system, we see in Russia many village communities taking the initiative of introducing the rotation of crops. Before accepting it, the peasants usually set apart a portion of the communal fields for an experiment in artificial meadows, and the commune buys the seeds. In the government of Moscow, the experiment was usually made on the field which was reserved for the above-mentioned communal culture. If the experiment proves successful, they find no difficulty whatever in redividing their fields so as to shoot the 5 or 6 field system. This system is now in use in hundreds of villages of Moscow, Tver, Smolensk, Vyatka and Pskov. Several instances of such and similar improvements were given in the Official Messenger, 1894, numbers 256 to 258. Associations between horseless peasants begin to appear also in South Russia. Another extremely interesting fact is the sudden development in southern West Siberia of very numerous cooperative creameries for making butter. Hundreds of them spread in Tobolsk and Tomsk without anyone knowing where from the initiative of the movement came. It came from the Danish cooperators who used to export their own butter of higher quality and to buy butter of a lower quality for their own use in Siberia. After several years' intercourse, they introduced creameries there. Now a great export trade, carried on by a union of the creameries, has grown out of their endeavors, and more than 1,000 cooperative shops have been opened in the villages. And where land can be spared, the communities give also a portion of their domain to allotments for fruit growing. Finally, the sudden extension lately taken in Russia by the little model farms, orchards, kitchen gardens and silkworm culture grounds, which are started at the village schoolhouses under the conduct of a schoolmaster or of a village volunteer, is also due to the support they found with the village communities. Moreover, such permanent improvements as drainage and irrigation are of frequent occurrence. For instance, in 3 districts of the province of Moscow, industrial to a great extent, drainage works have been accomplished within the last 10 years on a large scale in no less than 180 to 200 different villages, the commoners working themselves with a spade. At another extremity of Russia, in the dry steppes of Novozen, over 1,000 dams for ponds were built and several hundreds of deep wells were sunk by the communes, while in a wealthy German colony of the southeast, the commoners worked, men and women alike, for 5 weeks in succession to erect a dam 2 miles long for irrigation purposes. What could isolated men do in the struggle against the dry climate? What could they obtain through individual effort when South Russia was struck with the marmot plague and all people living on the land, rich and poor, commoners and individualists, had to work with their hands in order to conjure the plague? To call in the policeman would have been of no use. To associate was the only possible remedy. And now, after having said so much about mutual aid and support which are practiced by the tillers of the soil in civilized countries, I see that I might fill an octavo volume with illustrations taken from the life of the hundreds of millions of men who also live under the tutorship of more or less centralized states, but are out of touch with modern civilization and modern ideas. I might describe the inner life of a Turkish village and its network of admirable mutual aid customs and habits. On turning over my leaflets covered with illustrations from peasant life in Caucasia, I come across touching facts of mutual support. I trace the same customs in the Arab Jema and the Afghan Pura, in the villages of Persia, India and Java, in the undivided family of the Chinese, in the encampments of the semi-nomads of Central Asia and the nomads of the far north. On consulting notes taken at random in the literature of Africa, I find them replete with similar facts of aids convoked to take in the crops, of houses built by all inhabitants of a village, sometimes to repair the havoc done by civilized filibusters, of people aiding each other in case of accident, protecting the traveller, and so on. And when I peruse such works as Post's Compendium of African Customary Law, I understand why, notwithstanding all tyranny, oppression, robberies and raids, tribal wars, glutton kings, deceiving witches and priors, slave hunters and the like, this population have not gone astray in the woods, while they have maintained a certain civilization and have remained men, instead of dropping to the level of struggling families of decaying orangutans. The fact is that the slave hunters, the ivory robbers, the fighting kings, the Matabele and the Madagascar heroes pass away, leaving the traces marked with blood and fire, but the nucleus of mutual aid institutions, habit and customs, grown up in the tribe and the village community, remains, and it keeps men united in societies open to the progress of civilization and ready to receive it when the day comes that they shall receive civilization instead of bullets. The same applies to our civilized world. The natural and social calamities pass away. Whole populations are periodically reduced to misery or starvation. The very springs of life are crushed out of millions of men, reduced to city pauperism. The understanding and the feelings of the millions are vitiated by teachings worked out in the interest of a few. All this is certainly a part of our existence, but the nucleus of mutual support institutions, habits and customs remain alive with the millions. It keeps them together, and they prefer to cling to their customs, beliefs and traditions rather than to accept the teachings of a war of each against all, which are offered to them under the title of science, but are no science at all. End of chapter 7. Recording by Enko.